Welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So this video here is part 4 on the 1975 LH Torana that we've been doing in matte black. The previous few videos have gone through how to mix up matte clear, how to paint over chrome, and in part 3 we got started on the body repairs and rust repairs on these panels and the body. This video is mainly going to be concentrating on a little bit of these repairs. I'll take you through what I've done here and we'll then take it into the spray booth, get the primer on, and end up finishing off with a few little repairs on the body. We'll then cut this video there, just leave it as a short video, and continue on with the body repairs on the body of the car next video. Those who remember from watching the previous video will remember that these panels here did have a few little rust repairs on them, so I've ground that down, put the rust killer onto it, or the rust converter, left that overnight. I've then finished off any of the sanding with 180 grit, which I started with 80 grit first to rip into it, then I'll finish off with 80 grit, then put some body filler over it. I'm now hitting it with 80 grit again, and I'll be finishing off all of these repairs with some 80 grit on the orbital sander with the soft pad on it. Over the years I've tried a few different ways of priming and different grits and going over different grits, but I've found that anything that's going over the top of existing paint, you really want to go 180 grit. If you start going much finer than that, say 240 and 320 would be okay, but any finer than that, you end up risking ruining your repair. So 180 is good enough if you've done any repairs. However, if you've taken all of the paint right off, you may even find that 120 grit is okay to prime over on your bare metal and your filler repairs and stuff like that. Depending on the process you're going to do, it's obviously going to change. So here's just a bit of video footage of where we're up to. As you can see, there is quite a lot of material on there already, and we're just hitting the affected areas rather than making it into a much bigger job than need be. We've just gone over the top, but as I mentioned before, finishing those repairs off with 180 is minimizing the risk of any shrink back. You go to 240 or 320, you're actually going to dig into that body filler too much and you'll start making high and low spots. So 180 is what I wanted to finish off with. There's the boot and all the doors, and there's just another bumper bar in the corner there that you can see I'm priming up at the same time. Next up, most of the stuff has been stripped out of all these doors anyway, so I'm not getting overly fussy with my masking. I'm just keeping the bulk of the primer off the inside so I don't then have to sand it off and keep clogging up my sandpaper. However, one or two little bits, it really isn't going to worry me. It's going to sand off quite easily. Just as always with my first coat of primer, I don't like to put it on too heavy, so just go sort of a medium wet coat. You don't even need to go for full coverage with that first coat. It's going to help with a couple of things. It's going to help stop any shrink back as well, as it's also going to make it dry nice and quick. So by the time you get around after your first coat, that first place that you started should just about be right to go straight over with a wet coat, and then just give that a couple of minutes in between coats depending on the temperature, and that's also going to depend on the kind of hardeners that you want. So if it's really hot, say above 30 degrees, you might even decide that you want to use a medium or a slow hardener, but most of the time I use a fast hardener in my primer. The primer I'm using is the Concept Paints HS Primer. It's a reasonably priced primer. It sands well, it fills well, and you don't get any more shrink back than what you would expect out of any other top quality primer. So this Concept Paints is sold in the USA as under the TranStar brand. So if any of my American followers would like to give this paint a try, I highly recommend it. It's good quality paints and it's a reasonable price. Gun I'm using is the Ergunza AZ3 with the 1.8mm fluid tip on it. I'm running that at about 20 psi, have the fan wound right open, and same with the fluid. So pretty basic settings on it. I don't like having the primer too thin either. I don't like having it too thick, so you really want to get that primer consistency just right. That's going to depend on what you're looking for out of it as well. I'm looking for a fill and sand, something that I can just prime up once. I'm not going to have to re-prime because there's not enough on there, and I'm not going to have to block and block and block to get all that orange peel out of, which is why sometimes thinning your last coat of primer down can even be a bit of an advantage because it makes it a little bit easier to sand, but you really don't want to overdo it because you'll lose the build and then you'll end up rubbing through or sanding through, and then you'll have to re-prime, which can get time consuming. But to be honest, on a job like this, where it's decent sized repairs on a nice old car. If it does need re-priming, it's not that big of an issue because really the quality of the job comes first rather than just pumping it out, say, in a smash shop where you've got to do, say, 5 cars a day to keep the boss happy. Anyway, the parts are all primed up. As you see, moving on with the job, we're going on with the body and just doing some body repairs. This actually took me quite a long time to work on the body. It seemed like I was getting ripped right into those doors and all the bolt-on panels, and I was going 100 miles an hour and making real good time on the job, but then I got onto the body and there was a lot of little extra things that I sort of didn't really expect on it, like little bits of extra rust and a few body repairs, but not to worry, end result was really nice, which you'll be able to see here in a minute. Be sure to let me know what you think of these time-lapse videos. Look, I can't promise that I'm going to be doing that many of them, but if you guys like them, leave a comment and I might make a few more. Be sure to check me out on my website. I've been flat out spending hours and hours on doing blogs and stuff like that, so there's a description in the link below, thegunman.net.au. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to get out there and paint some shit. Thanks for watching, and this has been another Gunman production. Goodbye.